This is the third video in the series of thanatology. This video is divided into four parts: early changes in eye, early changes in skin, alga mortis, and lever mortis. As we all know, thanatology is the study of death or the changes that appears in the human body after death. It is categorized under thanatology, and we know that three types of change will occur in a body after death, that is immediate change, early change, and the late change. In the last video we have discussed it, so today we will discuss the early changes in the body. So let's continue. Firstly, we will see the early changes in the skin. What all changes will appear on the skin? Firstly, the word is pallor mortis. What is pallor mortis? The skins become pale and ash white due to the stoppage of the circulation and the drainage of blood from the capillaries. The skin loses its elasticity, the lips becomes brownish, dry and hard due to drying. What all changes we'll see in the muscles? The muscles loses their tonicity and become flaccid, but alive respond to the stimulus. Here we have to note that muscles act in the presence of ATPs. So when a person dies, there is still the ATPs that are present within the muscles, and because of that, the muscles respond to the chemical or electrical stimuli. They will respond to the alkaline, and they will respond to the electrical stimulus because of the presence of the ATP in the muscle still after death. The area of the body that is in contact with the ground become flat and the blood vessels is pressed out. As we all know, due to the gravity, the body that comes in the contact with the ground, it becomes flat, and due to the gravity and the weight of the body, the blood vessels are pressed out, and this is a very important point in lever mortis. We'll see the medical legal importance of this point. Moving on to the next, early changes in the eye. What all changes we'll see in the eyes? The first is the loss of the corneal and the pupillary reflex. Firstly, we'll see there will be no reflex for pupillary and the corneal. For pupils and the cornea, there will be no reflex. However, they sometimes they react to the miotic or mydriatic agents. Like for example, if we put some miotic agents in the eye, we'll see the dilation or the contraction of the pupil and the cornea. The pupil are dilated after death, later contracted. Firstly, because of the non availability of the message from the brain, because of the death of the brain, the people get dilated, and after in the period of rigor mortis, they become contracted. The people are circular during life, but lost to its elasticity and the shape of the people due to the non-availability of the message from the brain. The size and the shape of the pupil of the two sides differ. The cornea becomes permanently hazy after 10 to 12 hours of death due to decomposition. As we all know, the cornea is transparent and it becomes permanently hazy after 10 to 12 hours after death due to decomposition. The interocular tension becomes zero in 4 to 8 hours from 10 to 22 mm Hg after death. The normal eye pressure is 10 to 22 mm of Hg, but it becomes death within 4 to 8 hours. It becomes zero. Moving on to next. Trichinoid, that is the black line that which appears in the eyelid. If the eyelid remains open for 3 to 4 hours after death, there is a formation of two yellow triangles on the sclera on the each side of the iris, which becomes brown and then black. The cause of in becoming of this black line is drying and decomposition of the cellular debris, mucus, and the dust on the exposed conjunctiva and the sclera underneath. Because of this dust and the decomposition, this black line occurs. Then we have vitreous potassium and hypoxanthine. The steady raise in the value are seen after death. Moving on to the next, algar mortis. Now we come to the algar mortis. What is algar mortis? Algar means coolness and mortis means death. That means the cooling of the body after death. This is known as algar mortis. This is the first sign of death. When the body temperature falls and within some hours it tends to become equal to the temperature of the immediate environment, it is known as algar mortis. This is because of the cessation of the energy production within the body. As we all know, when we take food, this food produces heat in the body that is distributed throughout the body with various means of the circulation, and when the person is dead, the internal heat or the body temperature that is maintained due to the food, that energy production is ceased, and this temperature cannot be maintained, so the body cools to the temperature nearby the body, the environment nearby it. And also, due to inactivity of the heat regulating centers after somatic death, this algar mortis happen. This is a diagram. The body, the internal heat of the body that is produced due to the food keeps the body warm, and slowly and gradually after due course of time the body cools, and this is known as algar mortis. Moving on to the next, the conduction, radiation, and evaporation, these are mainly responsible for this in atmospheric environment. This conduction, radiation, and evaporation from the body, these all are responsible for this algar mortis. For calculating the time since death, the measurement of the inner core temperature is important than the outer surface temperature of the body. Now we all have to know that the time since death, it can be calculated by analyzing the algar mortis. So how we'll do it? We have to measure the internal core temperature, and then we'll know the time since death. We'll see it in the next slide. The most common site for temperature tracking is the rectum, except in the cases of sodomy. In the cases of sodomy, we don't take the temperature of internal temperature of the body through rectum. Other means are used. Moving on to the next, the rough estimation of time since death is obtained by the formula. Now there is a standardized formula that is that is used for determining the um, time since death. That is, time since death in hour is calculated by normal rectal temperature minus measured rectal temperature whole divided by rate of fall of temperature per hour. Now this is different for different countries. For example, for temperate countries another formula is used, and for the regular countries this formula is used. Nowadays nomogram method derived by Hensing is used. This is a experimental based data is obtained, and the simple computer program can calculate the accurate time since death with the error of plus minus 2.8 hours. It can be maintained, it can be detained, it can be obtained. Moving on to the next, the factors affecting algar mortis. We have many factors that affect algar mortis. The first and the major factor is atmospheric temperature, or we can also say environmental temperature. The rate of the fall of the body temperature is directly proportional to the difference between the temperature of the dead body and the environmental temperature. And moving on to the next, airflow. Air movement or the airflow over the surface of the dead body causes a quick fall in temperature due to increased evaporation of the body fluid. The body kept in well ventilated room or placed in a well aerated room we cool rapid, then closed, then put in a closed room. Next factor is age and sex. The rate of the loss of the heat is more in the children than in elderly compared to the adult because the surface area of the body is more in relation to the body volume, and the female retained body heat comparatively longer period because of their subcutaneous fat tissue. So age and sex are very important. Next we have humidity. The cooling is more rapid in humid areas rather than dry atmosphere since moist air is better conductor of heat. The media of the disposal. The media is very important. The cooling is earliest in the water and is late in the buried body. And the body built also have a impact on alga mortis. The obese body cools slowly and the lean body cools rapidly. As fat is a bad conductor of heat, in the obese body there is more fat and so the body cools slowly. The clothing and the covering of the cadaver or the body, the well covered body retain heat for a longer period as compared to the naked or the uh, thinly or less covered body. As we all know, clothes are bad conductor of heat. The mode of death is very important and also it's a major cause. In the cases of sudden death, in a healthy individual, the body tends to cool slowly, whereas in a death due to long and lasting illness, the body cools rapidly. And lastly, we have the position and the posture of the body. If the body lies in the supine and extended position, the loss of heat is rapid because of the greater surface area of the body. Whereas if curled in a fetal position, the loss will be very slow. Moving on to the next, postmortem caloricity. What is postmortem caloricity? This is a condition in which the body temperature increases for the first few hours due to following reasons. Like we have to understand that normally the body cools down. If it cools down, it is known as alga mortis, and if the body gain temperature, it is known as postmortem caloricity. This postmortem caloricity happens due to following factors like death due to infectious disease, septicemia or bacteremia. If the death is after a severe convulsions, death due to heat stroke or hemorrhage. In tropical countries, the atmospheric temperature is high and the dead body may absorb some heat. And the last is the postmortem glycogenolysis. What is this? This is compulsory phenomena which occurs in all bodies and it starts soon after death, producing up to 140 calories. This is a compulsory phenomena that occurs in all dead bodies. Moving on to the next, what is the medical legal importance of alga mortis? Like we all know, if alga mortis appear in a body, this is a sure sign of death. The time since death can be estimated. The rapid cooling of the dead body delays the process of rigor mortis and decomposition. If the heat is preserved for the longer period, the both processes will start early. So here we have to understand, if someone dies in a very cold area like in Himalayas, in the cold area where there in the presence of ice, the body will loses its heat quickly and the rigor mortis will appear slowly. And if it dies in the area like desert, the body will gain the heat, and this rigor mortis and decomposition will start early. Next we have livor mortis. What is livor mortis? It is also known as post-mortem staining or hypostasis, cadaver lividity, darkening of death, etc. We have many names for it. The post-mortem staining or PM staining is a bluish or a purplish red discoloration resulting from the gravitational pull and the settling of blood in the capillaries and the veins of the dependent part of the dead body. The PM staining depends upon the direction of the force of the gravity. The PM staining will occur there only where the direction of force of gravity comes in effect. Like for example, we have a photo. If the body is lying in supine position on the floor, the force of gravity is downwards. So this red colored area, this is because of the settling of the blood on the lower side of the body, and this is known as supine lividity or livor mortis. So after death time of 30 minutes to 1 hour is consist of discolored patches over dependent part of the body having the same color as blood, often mistaken for bruises. Within death death within 30 minutes to 1 hour, this discolored patches will appear on the dependent part, and this will be all with the same color of the blood. Within 3 to 4 hours, the small patches increases the size and fuses with each other to form uniformly stained large area. It is usually well developed in 4 hours and completely within 5 to 6 hours after death, and becomes fixed in 8 to 12 hours. There is an important point. Within 5 to 6 hours, if the body is not moved, the fixation of this PM lividity or livor mortis occurs in 8 to 12 hours completely. If the body is moved, this process, the fixing of the PM staining will not occur or occur in late time period. Moving on to the next. Importance of distribution of post-mortem staining. So what is the importance of post-mortem staining, where it is developed? That is because of its medical legal importance. We get to know the cause of death and the type of death and how the person dies, and time since death can be roughly estimated. So we have the important distribution of importance of distribution of post-mortem staining. We have in two parts. First is the externally it depends upon the position of the body, the vessels in those area which remain under pressure and the blood is compressed, resulting into pale skin at that areas that are known as contact pallor. Like we have a body in supine position, and this the neck, the entire back, the areas which are directly pressed on the ground, like occipital area, shoulder blades, buttocks, etc. These all will become pale in color, and this is because of the phenomena called contact pallor. And similarly, if any pressure of the substance of the covering, like the collar or the wrist, or we have a wristband, or we have like kalava or the dhaga binded over the hand, that prevents the capillary filling, which are seen as a stripe or band. These are known as vibits. Next we have, in hanging, the post-mortem staining is seen on the distal half of the upper arm and the lower arm, external genital, and the upper margins of the ligature marks on the neck. On the upper margin of the ligature mark on the neck. In the drowning, the staining is found on the face, the upper part of the chest, the hand, the lower arms, the feet, the calf, as they are the dependent parts. Like we all know, in the cases of the drowning, the head is considered to be the heaviest. So the head will drop down in the water, and due to that, the face, the upper part of the face will become stained. The upper part of the chest will become stained. The hands, the lower arms, the feet, calves, these all dependent parts become stained. Internally, what will happen? The area of contact pallor are similar to the area of contact flattening. Means internally, we'll see the organs which are considered to be dependent, they will have the same pattern of contact pallor and contact flattening. Moving on to the next. In the cases of excessive loss of blood or in severely anemic individual, the post-mortem staining may not be appreciable or may not be seen because of the loss of the blood. We can't see, this blood will not deposit over the dependent part, and we may not see post-mortem staining. The color of the post-mortem lividity, this is very important. By the color of the post-mortem lividity, we can know the time period of the death, time since death, and the type of death. Like for example, initially lividity will show bluish pink color. After some time, it will show bluish purple color. In the carbon monoxide poisoning, we will see bright cherry red color of the post-mortem lividity. In the opium poisoning, we will see almost black color of PM lividity. In asphyxial death, we will see dark bluish violet color. Moving on to the next. What is the medical legal importance of the PM staining? It is the sign of death that can roughly estimate from the formation, extension, and fixation of the PM stain. It indicates the posture of the body at the time of death. It may indicate the movement of the body to the another position sometime after death, and the cause of death can be known. So these all points are very important in the medical legal importance of PM staining. Next we will have rigor mortis. That is a big topic, and a fully dedicated video will be based on rigor mortis. So this is the end of the video. Thank you. Stay home, stay safe, and study.